Hi everyone, welcome back to our start of year procedures video. I do apologize for the last one and the audio. I was not aware at the time, so I thought I'd redo it for you guys. Now, there are two things that we want to be doing when we are running our start of year procedures. Okay, they are moving patrons to left and then importing our new patrons. I'll also have a quick chat about checking our final borrowing dates and loan periods and stuff like that. Normally at the start of every year before you guys come back to work, our staff will automatically update your final borrowing date and expiry date. All we do is add an extra year, but I'll show you how to check those dates to make sure that they're correct for your year. Alrighty, so first thing, we want to make sure we have a CSV file. Okay, now the CSV file is very important. We need a minimum amount of fields for the Patron import to actually run. Okay, and those fields are first name, okay, of the student or teacher, surname, their barcode, okay, if you have a specific barcode to use, or the student ID from your admin system, their classification, which is their year level, and their homeroom. Okay, so these are the minimum fields that the Patron import needs to run. Okay, if you're missing a field, it will throw up an error saying, hey, I don't see homeroom here, I actually need that to complete this import. Okay, so make sure you got those in your CSV file. And yeah, we'll go through the procedure of moving our patrons to left. Okay, now the reason we do this is so that when your students hit year 12, for example, or grade 6, obviously they're not going to be continuing on the next year. So we'll need to remove them from our active classifications and homerooms, A, so they're not messing up your reports, and B, it keeps the data nice and clean. Alright, so let's just say little Ishan wants to move back to India because he wants to learn to make gulab jamuns. Okay, so let's go through the process of moving our patrons from their current year levels and homerooms to left homerooms and classifications. Okay, you want to start by going to your menu, configuration, global functions. Okay, under the functions created by FSI, you'll find the patron button. Okay, and we've got two here: move patrons by classification and move patrons by homeroom. Okay, just going to use the top one for now. The way I like to do it is I like to move all classifications. That way I'm getting not only the year 12s or grade 6s that have finished last year, but as well as anyone that hasn't continued on in this school. For example, they've moved to India like Ishan, or they've gone down the street to a different school. You want to clear out those patrons so that when you're running your reports, the patrons that appear are the active patrons at your school. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and we'll just select these ones. Okay, select as many as you want as you go through your list. Okay, and then when you've selected those, you hit search at the bottom. Okay, this will list any students that are in those classifications. As you can see, I've only got Quentin here, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. Okay, it's asking me what I want to change, so I want to change their class grade. I'm overriding it to, let's see if we have left in here. You can type in these top boxes and they will search. If a classification or homeroom doesn't exist, you can click on the plus symbol and that will create that for you. I want left 2020, so I'm just going to click on that. Okay, one thing you do need to remember is you have the option to select by filter or manual select. Okay, so if I go back one, that's manually selecting, so you can go through and select who you want to move, or just leave it blank, and when you go change, make sure your filter option is selected. Okay, hit update, tells me this is what I'm changing, anyone in this class grade to this class grade. Okay, you can then go confirm. Okay, my changes have been successful. I can close that, hit search again just to double check. There's no one in those classifications. It's exactly what I wanted. Alright, so if we click back on list, we'll go through and move the patrons from their homerooms to the left homeroom. Okay, I like to do this a little bit different. If I just go change homeroom to class grade, and I select my class grade of left 2020, hit search. Okay, these are all the patrons in class grade left 2020. Okay, I want to move them to move their homeroom, to left as well. So click change, make sure this says homeroom, overwrite, and then I can type it in again. If it exists, it doesn't, so I'll create it. Okay, no result. Click plus, just telling me, do you want to create this? Yes, I do. Okay, hit update, confirm. Done. Alright, so now anyone that's in left 2020 classification now has the homeroom of left 2020. Okay, from here I can go ahead and start my patron import process. Okay, from the menu, I'm going to go to patron, smart patron import. Okay, has header is very important. That just simply means if your CSV file contains a header at the top. Okay, so it'll be the words first name, surname. Okay, if it doesn't, untick that and then hit upload file. Mine does have that, I believe. So I'm going to go upload file. Here's my file I want to import. Click open. Okay, and so now I can match my data. As you can see, it's already matched some fields. Anything marked green, it's looked at the header and gone, I know what last name is, that's surname. I know what first name is, that's first name, so on and so forth. Anything it couldn't figure out, like student hashtag or student number, it doesn't understand what that is, but I can go, that's barcode. Okay, it'll change color. I can come over here, student email. It's looking for the word email, so I'll type in email. Okay, and then here, tutor or role class, that's my homeroom. Okay, so you can see it's put homeroom here, so I'll get rid of that. If you type in homeroom, I'll deselect that one. This is my classification, and this is my homeroom. Okay, you can see everything is green and beigey color. That's what I'm looking for, no reds. Alright, I then want to hit next step. Okay, so it's telling me it's creating new patrons for these patrons. Okay, I'm okay with that because they are all new, but I can go back, for example, and say I want to merge by full name. Okay, I can then go next step. If it could match by name, it would show me existing patrons and that it's updating them, not creating new ones. If I go back again, okay, I can select email if I want to merge by email. Okay, by default, it's always set to barcode. So it's looking for this field within SmartSuite's patrons and it's trying to match them up. Okay, but as I said before, it doesn't find a match, so that's going to create new patrons for me. Okay, so I'm just going to hit perform changes. Okay, it does ask for a security code. To find that security code, you want to go to your menu, to mailbox. Okay, always open in a new tab. and then you will want to look for the System tab. Okay, this is where it sends the security codes, Patron import security code, check the date, just copy that out, Control C, and then Control V to paste, hit confirm. It tells us that the import can't be undone. That's a lie. I'll show you how you can roll back a Patron import if you've made some mistakes. Okay, so once it's finished, it will run a validation check, and that's to check for duplicate patrons. Say if you imported it incorrectly and there were errors, it would show you those errors. It's all passed, but all you have to do would be click on that. It would say validation failed in red. Click on that, you get a pop-up with all the issues it's found, so duplicate patrons and so on. Okay, now if you did make a mistake, okay, you've imported their street into their first name, their surname into their classification, so on and so forth. Obviously that's not correct. So how do we fix that? You'll see this go back button here. Okay, so you always want to leave this page up and just check your patrons by going to patron management, always open in a new tab. This allows you to check those patrons, make sure, oh, there is an issue. I can now go back to my Patron import, hit go back. Okay, and then there's a rollback button right here. Now this will roll the import back to, roll the data back to what it was before you did the import. Okay, so if I click that button, you can see 4 patrons were imported, 4 items were deleted. Okay, so it's removed those 4 patrons I just imported because I did it incorrectly. Okay, and then you can restart the import here. Okay, you can see those 4 patrons were re-imported again. Okay, but if you do make a mistake and you do roll back, you will need to start again, and that's by going straight to the menu to Patron and Smart Patron Import. Okay, so that's running your Patron import. It is very simple. The system, as I said before, it will try to match as many fields as it can. You do need to double check everything though to make sure, yes, this is correct, that's correct, this is incorrect. I'll update that field so that when your import runs, you don't have any issues. Okay, what I'll show you now is just quickly jump into our final borrowing dates and stuff like that. So say you did a Patron import to create a brand new classifications, you will need to check that they have final borrowing dates and expiry dates, as well as loan limits. It's always good every year to check anyway, even if you haven't done a Patron import, just to check that the final borrow dates and expiry dates are correct, because you will run into issues if they are not up to date when you're loaning out at the start of each year. So you want to go to your menu. Okay, configuration authority editor is the option you're looking for. Okay, so all your authority files are located in this module. You've got, things like subject, loan limits, loan periods, renew periods, classifications, homerooms, everything that's in the system you will find in here using this drop down. Okay, so we're looking for class grade. These are all my classifications. Okay, so you can see here, after my import, I imported these classifications. I can hit the pencil and you can see automatically that they are all blank. Okay, so this is where I will need to add a final borrowing date. Okay, so for those who are unaware what a final borrowing date is, that is the date you give the system. So when you're loaning out, items don't loan past this date, and they're all due back on this date. Okay, for example, you have a year loan, you loan it out today, instead of being due back today next year, it's due back on the date that you've set. My final borrowing date, which will be, we'll go November 10th. Okay, so that means anything loaned out will not go past the 10th of November. Okay, because that gives me a week or 2 weeks to get items back before kids leave for holidays. Okay, expiry date. I just like to add a few extra years on that. And here is my loan limits. Okay, so if it's set to 0000 means your students in this classification of 2021 grade 2 cannot loan anything. Okay, so if you loan something out, they'll get an error, okay, and it'll probably be due back the same day that you've loaned it. So loan limit is how many items they can have. Okay, if it's under this total section, it's a loan limit of any media description. Okay, so that's a book, textbook, computer, so on and so forth. You can add specific loan limits for specific items. So if you only want them to borrow books, then you'll select book. I want them to have 2 books for 14 days. Renew limit will be 1 renew, and renew period will be another 14 days. They can reserve 1 item. Multi-copy is if you want them to borrow the same copy of an item. This is normally only used for teachers. And Patron Override. Now this is another one that's used for teachers that will tell the system that this is a special item, okay, and they can loan it out for whatever is set on my loan period. Okay, so let's just say I am dealing with teachers. I want them to be able to loan books for 14 days, but I want them to be able to loan a camera, okay, 1 camera, for 365 days. Okay, renew limit. I'll just keep going through. Override. Okay, now this will loan the item out for 365 days or up to the final borrowing date, which is the 10th of the 11th, 2021. Okay, once I've gone through and added my loan limits, hit save, and that will push down to any patron in this class grade. Alrighty, so that's the quick rundown of your start of year procedures. There are the 3 things you need to do. Move your patrons to left, run your patron import, and just to double check your class grades, loan limits, and their final borrowing date and expiry dates. Okay, so as always, thanks for joining in. If you do have any questions, shoot us a message in the mailbox. Okay, I'll show you how to get there. Mailbox. Okay, sport tickets, create a ticket. Alright, so you just place your subject in there, your message, okay, and then hit the send button. That comes straight to us. And if you do have any questions, please do that. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any other trainings that we do. We do trainings every week, and we don't want you guys missing out on those. Alright, as always, thanks again. My name's Donald, and I'll be chatting to you guys soon. Thanks, guys.